this group. That's what I would say. And so it's very nice to see you. I'm Sarah McCrumph. I know most of you, but not all of you. And Forrest, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name's Forrest. It's nice to be with you.
And Emma is also here.
Hey everyone. Very nice to see you.
So the purpose of this is really to share a little bit of the well-being economy and to see if you have questions, see what your curiosity is about it, what you're interested in. So it's not a formal kind of, we're going to make a spiel all about it. It's much more informal than that. It could be interesting to hear from each of you why you're interested in the well-being economy, what attracts you about that. Would somebody like to speak about that first? Catherine.
I'm in a space where I see that the old thing doesn't work anymore and the new one isn't born yet. So I'm in this space in between, and the only thing I can do is trust right now. And that's why I'm interested.
Yep. Familiar space, I think, for many people. Who else? Do you want to say something, Lizzie?
Hi, everyone. For me, when I listened to the live between you and Forrest, I just felt so much resonance. And I believe we're at a time in life and in history of like redefining where business comes from and how to holistically build business that is serving the greater whole. So we become more aware of the whole system rather than just our compartmentalized section. And it's something I'm curious about creating in my own life and business, and then also supporting other leaders as well in creating. And so it's just a deep resonance, and was super beautiful to hear so many words that I think about and live and breathe all the time. So grateful.
What business are you in?
So I'm an intuitive advisor, and I'm also an artist. So I work a lot with different leaders and entrepreneurs as well, and like their inner world and their energetics. And so, yeah, it's something that I, live and breathe daily. Yeah.
Nice. Sandy, are you free to talk? I know we spoke the other day.
Yes, sorry, I'm not in a position to be on camera, but I can share a bit. And I think Catherine stated it beautifully, that we're in this in-between space, and it's uncertain but incredibly exciting to be on the cusp of something that we know is coming and to be a part of it. And it's okay not to have all the answers right now. I agree that the old system is fading, and I'm just delighted to be part of this brand new community for me to explore what's next. Just really happy to be here today.
Do you want to say a little bit, Sandy, about how you're looking at contributing to the well-being economy?
Well, absolutely. Again, all very new and in its infancy, but I have really found a joyful niche in sharing business principles with those, particularly women who have not gone to business school and are intimidated or shy away from entrepreneurial opportunities and dreams of their own because they feel they don't have the mechanics to proceed. And I've just seen time and time again with my university students, as well as with my colleagues and other experienced women, that when we provide just a bit of framework and some fundamental principles, that they can really take off and do wonderful things. I think the world is better off when these ideas are realized and tested, as opposed to staying dormant because people are hesitant because they don't think they have the capability. When they have the heart space and they have the experience, I really want to help them build their confidence and to proceed successfully and meaningfully.
It's so good to hear these things, isn't it? So good to see people stepping up into different kinds of business and really looking forward. Sylvie, would you like to say something about what's interesting you here?
Yeah, it's for me, it's working as a good for all business consulting. We're wanting to transition the economy to a good for all economy, win for all economy. And I see when I hear about the well-being economy, it feels like a layer deeper. It feels like the embodied version of that. So the good for all economy seems like a good idea, but this is more of a, I know, felt sense of that. Yeah, like a possibility, or to speak in MS words, probability. So yeah, looking forward really to feel into that. Like, it feels like more like a felt sense than a mental idea, like a experienced quality it has to me.
Yeah.
Like even coming to this call, I already feel the field opening up and dropping in. That feels super nice.
Thank you. And Natasha and Jeff, we're just talking a little bit about what's got you interested in the well-being economy, what you're curious about. So the others have all spoken. Would you like to say a little bit? Jeff, you're unmuted, I noticed. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I didn't mean to be unmuted. That just happened. I bumped into yourself, Sarah, through Dr. Zach Bush a while back, and have been interested in the way you approach life, and brought this well-being to my attention here a few months back. I am always curious about that there's a better way than the path I've been on. So to hear your soft spokenness, and I don't know much about Forrest other than your sharing of him, but am just extremely interested in a different approach to I guess just life in general, of to feel a little more of the flow of the energies of the, I guess, our mother, for lack of better terms, the earth, the space that we all reside in, that we get so disconnected from, it seems like, as life moves on, and chasing dollars to survive, to have the things that we think we need or want.
Are you in business, Jeff? What business are you in?
I build countertops for a living.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Are you in your workshop?
I am. I spend a lot of time out here,
Yeah.
and happen to have my laptop here today, and a little time to join you and everybody you bring together. It's I'm extremely interested, and so easy to get sidetracked in what I've been taught and learned for my entire, I guess, programming, for lack of better terms.
Ready for change, huh?
Definitely ready for some change.
Yeah. How about Natasha? Are you able to speak? Yeah.
I am in transit, so hopefully it's not too much background noise. I stumbled on your work, Sarah, through a program that I was in related to money. And have been following you since, and I really love your refreshing take on the well-being economy and just a different way of doing business. I had a corporate career for over 15 years and then moved into working for a Fortune 500 company and then moved into being an executive coach. And I have been an entrepreneur for the last 11 years and definitely am interested in a different way of doing business and, just wanting to be part of a more conscious way of doing business. So that's what attracted me to the well-being economy.
And what business are you in?
I'm an executive coach, and
oh yeah, you said, sorry.
Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
my team and I we actually work with organizations to help their leaders and teams, and then we also work with individuals as well, but primarily people who are working in the traditional corporate space.
But still trying to help them be more conscious, I'm sure.
Exactly. And having them different ways of doing business with each other and ways of being and as they're doing their work.
Amazing. So important. Yeah. Thank you. Is there somebody who we left out, or is that all?
I think it's
Ank.
Yeah.
Ank, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I know you're there. We're just talking a little bit about what's got your curiosity around the well-being economy.
Well, the well-being economy in general has my curiosity. So it's more that I know I love to see more of that, and I'm still hoping to find it.
Yeah. Hoping to experience it, huh? Yeah. Well, Forrest, would you like to share something maybe around your experience and your curiosity about the well-being economy?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah, and thanks everybody. It's nice to be with you. Sarah, you just mentioned experiencing the well-being economy. So I just, Sylvie, you had mentioned the field opening up here, and I want to bring some attention to that. We can talk about the well-being economy, which I will, of course. I'll share about it and speak some words. And I also just want to invite everybody to also experience the feeling tone of this call, the reverberation of it, what it's like to be here in this space together. What we're doing here, I mean, Sarah and I have been collaborating together for years, running events and leading explorations and inquiries of different kinds together. But this particular gathering is coming together as a result of a podcast that Sarah and I did, and it had been a bit since we hung out, and maybe almost a year. And when we were hanging out, I'm like, yeah, I've been sinking deeper and deeper down into this thing I'm calling the ground of well-being. And she's like, I've been sinking deeper down into this thing I'm calling the ground of being. And we're both
The well of being.
Well of being.
The well of being.
And I'm saying the ground of well-being.
Yeah.
We're like, what the heck? Are we talking about the same thing here? And it seems like when you're playing this game of where does this new world live, this world that we all can see well, maybe not see with our concrete eyes, but it's almost like you can taste it, right? Like there's a whole new world that wants to come online in this moment. And a lot of us can feel like, Catherine, you were talking about this transition that we're going through right now. It's like there's a whole new moment. Like this moment is pregnant with a potential that's coming into form more and more in every breath. And what we're finding is, you know, my orientation used to be, okay, here we are. Let's all have a gathering like this and let's come together and create the future. And more living into this exploration, there's a discovery that the world that we want to live in already exists in another, in a realm, in a state of consciousness from a certain orientation. And for Sarah and me, we found, and Emma too, Emma's on this call, who's working closely in this team. The more we access the well of being, the ground of well-being, the more we access this and orient from the ground of well-being, the more we realize, I mean, at least I'll just speak for myself. It's like, holy crap, the world that we want to see is already here when we're living from the ground of well-being. And so what we need is we need more people relating with each other, relating with their business and their life and their relationships from the ground of well-being. And this gathering is an opportunity for us to come together and be in a shared resonance field. I mean, I don't have a clue what happens when you get dozens and hundreds and thousands of people together in the ground of well-being. I have no idea what's possible. I've never seen it. I've never experienced it. And we get to come together and potentially have a new moment, potentially experience something that nobody's ever experienced before in the history of humanity. And that's a real honor for me. So, yeah, I welcome you. I welcome you wholeheartedly into this inquiry. It's a lifelong one. I mean, I want to have you at the gathering, and this is a lifelong journey that we're in together, orienting from and creating business from the ground of well-being. And for me, what this makes possible, what I've seen in my own life, in my own coaching business and the programs and the offerings that we're running, is that more well-being and more money are possible with one way of relating with reality. Meaning we don't have to spend our money to get well-being and then turn around and spend our well-being to get money. We don't have to sacrifice our business for our well-being. We don't have to sacrifice our well-being for our business. We can actually relate with our business and our life from the ground of well-being and have more of both in every moment. And so that energizes me, that enlivens me, and I want to experience that together with a growing number of us. So yeah,
Yeah, that feels like something that's really worth putting energy into, because business that is just busyness, and you know, many of us are familiar with that. There comes a point where people ask, what's the point of this? I can be busy for the rest of my life, but what am I doing? And my experience with well-being is that the more well-being I touch into and experience, the more natural it is to share myself, my experience, to share well-being. Some people here have already explored with me what I call the source codes of well-being, and you want to share. It's kind of like you, if you experience well-being, you want to share it. Why would you do something else? And you want to create wealth, because there's such a wealth in the well-being itself. And how can we then experience a kind of wealth that is rich and fulfilling and has the linear parts in it? We don't want to leave out the numbers and the growth and the business factors, but has so much more in it that gives us the satisfaction and the fulfillment that we also know is possible, along with the challenges. To me, business gives us a great opportunity to solve sometimes some very difficult or to approach, to grapple with some really big challenges. And from well-being, you can engage with it. The big thing that shifted for me, and is in the process of shifting, I would say still, is feeling able to really grapple with things when I don't know how to do them, when they seem way too difficult for me or way too big for me, but somehow with an underlying well-being, it's like my spine doesn't have gaps in it. I don't know how to say it exactly. When I was younger, I often felt it was like my backbone was missing some pieces, and so it couldn't support itself properly. You know, the spirit, that sense of, yes, I can do this, even though I don't know how to, and I feel small because I'm a person. We're all just people, really. And that's very beautiful when you can bring that together with well-being, because those of us who are in the business of making new businesses and new systems know that the challenges are considerable. It's not always just the easiest thing in the world to do. And so to have the spirit to do it, and the knowing that I'm going to be able to keep doing this. I look 30 years ahead. I'll be 95 then. But I can see that by that time, I reckon things will be about working quite well. And I'm so kind of fascinated by what are we going to need to do over this next 30 years in order for this well-being economy to really fill out and be shared widely and become the predominant economy on our planet. I've met many people recently. It's really funny. The 30 years thing came to me only a few weeks ago. It's like, oh, it's going to take 30 years from where we are now. Now that can change because the energy changes, but just from where I was in that moment, I could see it. And then I met all these other people. One person who's like the most clever person in the whole world that I have ever met. I mean, he is so ultra knows everything in a not too annoying way. And he said, oh, he said 30 years, it's going to be 30 years. And then somebody else said, oh yeah, it's going to be 30 years. People kept saying that. And I found that really intriguing. And we might be able to, sometimes once we know things like that, we can speed it up, especially if we experience lots of well-being, time changes. But that really gives us something to get to grips with. It makes it, to me, very, very worthwhile to come together and to explore this and to strengthen each other. So I'm wondering if you have questions, if you have something you'd like to share with us, because one of the things that we were talking recently about, what's your definition of the well-being economy? And Forrest has a definition, I have a different definition, and I've come to realize, I've been reflecting on it, and I've realized that it's probably really good that we don't have a common definition, that we all have our own definition and we all have a kind of shared sense of direction, but that there is diversity and everyone's finding our own place within this economy. And so I actually think it's really healthy. So it would be really interesting to hear a little bit how you see it, or how you would love to see it. What are you looking for in this well-being economy?
Is it all right if I speak?
It sure is.
I'm certainly uncertain of well-being. In my industry, my business, I build countertops out of natural stone for the most part. Very similar to a lot of things that I see in your background. And trying to come to terms with, am I just expelling the resources that we have? Is there enough for everything? Or what might be the best avenue as I move through this, of a better product that is reusable, that doesn't, it seems like my industry, the things we do outlast most people's taste, and then it goes into I most of my scrap and stuff goes into a recycle. It gets put back into roads and different things, but I'm just a bit torn, and I have been in my business here for probably 7 or 8 years of what is the best way, and where should my knowledge go. As I enjoy my craft and building what I do, but part of me is, I keep taking from these resources that take so long to rebuild. So
I have a question for you, Jeff. I wonder what would happen if you started from well-being rather than starting from the problem of the resources, which is where everyone in the world is starting. What happens if you actually, you say maybe you struggle a bit with well-being, and that's fine. Well, it's not always, well, it's not always top of mind for people. But if you do right now, just allow yourself to start from well-being and then look at your business, what happens?
I have an interesting energy rolling through myself at this point. But it's certainly, I will have to resonate with that for a while. It's not like anything has certainly came to.
Well, you've only had a few seconds. Can you describe the energy?
It's not quite a tingling that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, but it almost started from down in the lower abdomen and kind of worked up through my chest into my shoulders of maybe a slight vibration or something, just to not so hair raising on my neck that I get sometimes when I'm trying to find this space.
But it feels good, huh?
It definitely feels well. Absolutely.
It feels well. Can you feel how it changes the way that you think?
Yeah, it almost stopped my thinking.
Yeah. And yeah, so it would be really interesting to look at your counters and the resources and your business from this place.
I'm gonna have to spend some time with this for sure.
Worthwhile time.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we can see it in your face.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else, what is this? Well, what's the well-being economy for you? Or what's your part of it? You could also look that way.
For me, I would say it's coming from the heart and not in a pathetic way. It's so.
I love that.
There is an openness, and it's coming from serving each other and not from selling myself or being better or having a lot of something that I can buy from what I sell. So it's much more a togetherness that happens where everybody is seen and with its gifts and can express freely what each one of us really can contribute.
So what does that change?
There's much more ease, freedom, and happiness.
It's different organization, isn't it? Like if people are working that way, it's so different from how it is now.
Yeah, it feels like the old structures have to break apart completely so that this new energy is able to penetrate everything.
Well, this is an interesting question to actually, maybe Forrest, you could share some experience, because when I hear people talk about like what you just said, the old structures need to fall apart completely, that is really a devastation of society. if you think about it. The old structures provide people with their living at the moment, and if that falls apart before the new part is born, so to speak, we really have possibly a great deal of chaos. So I wonder, in the experience of developing personal well-being first, I'm curious, Forrest and Emma as well, maybe how you have navigated the falling apart of the old ways and the replacing or the emerging of the new ways, and how can we, are there ways to make it less devastating or less destructive? Because it can be very destructive, I think, socially, and also in terms of our own well-being. I feel this is something that is really worth paying attention to. Is how do we transform? How do we create change in a way that's gentler, doesn't create trauma at the same time? That's yeah, that's a big question for me.
You want to go, Emma?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. Yeah, I'm noticing I'm like sinking in as I hear this question. And it's funny because for me, the energy feels very like that it doesn't have to destroy anything. It's more like it's emerging and it's like creating something new. Like sometimes we use the metaphor of like plants growing through the cracks, and like that the new thing is just arising, and everyone is gravitating towards that. Like everyone in my inner system is naturally gravitating towards that light. So like nothing needs to be like destroyed. It's more like, oh yeah, there's naturally following happening, like following that well of being or light. Or
Can you say
yeah.
a bit more? It's a beautiful description you're giving. Can you just take it a little further?
Yeah, it feels for me like pure creation moving. And so like I have a trust that like on being in that, and like being in that also in the, for me it's very much on the edge of unknown, that new structures will arise also from there, but it's like it's more organically than the structure we see so far, like more alive, I guess.
Takes a great trust in humanity, especially that we have the capability and the resilience and that we really are, we really are beings that can rise to this.
Yeah, for me, like the trust is in this energy. Like from this energy there's so much trust. Like this is actually where I feel like all the potential for humanity. Yeah.
And in practical terms, you know, we're talking about change, and we're talking about change at a very large scale in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious how you see that. Like, do you see that if enough people are really engaged with the well-being economy, that's enough, that supports it? What do you see as necessary in a practical way? You know, we're doing a practical thing. We're organizing an event, a 3-day event. It's a thing we're doing to a kind of activation of the well-being economy. I'm wondering how you see it through this perspective.
Yeah, I really like that, because that in the end is also like how do we integrate, right, with the business or the practical side, like the consciousness. And if I'm being really honest with you right now, I feel like that personally I'm in the emergence of that, like and I really like that you use the word activation. That for me brings the most trust, like that this activation, even also like doesn't matter how many people we are, that we're like activating it in the field and that it's happening, and that I trust that from there this will be automatically translated also in the practical.
I was leading a session last night, and somebody in the group was speaking, and she was experiencing herself in creation. And she could literally see that if she moves her finger, the entire universe moves with her finger. Or if she has a thought, everything moves with her thought. And for 5 or 10 minutes, she was describing that. Were you there, Catherine? You didn't see it. It was absolutely beautiful. It was exquisitely beautiful to hear someone just in there, never experienced that before in that way, and seeing how little it takes actually for, like, everything moves with her, she moves with everything. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. What about you, Forrest?
You all, I just want to check with you all. Could I share my screen with you for a second? Can I show you a picture? Is that okay for y'all? Yeah. Okay. I have this on my website, and we have it on the Our Emerging Future website too. In our work, we have a technology in consciousness that we call fields of coherence. And so we facilitate this process Sarah's speaking to. Right here, you can see the Wellbeing Economy gathering. You can see this phone call, right? We gather together as a group of people in a pod of awareness. This is a field of awareness that we're gathering in. And in this, we make space for the old paradigm, the old dehydrated structures of consciousness and the ways of being that we've outgrown. This can happen in a personal way, in our own personal life, and it can happen in our relationships, and it can happen in larger and larger holes. Like right now, we're looking at an economy, right? This is the old fear-based, not enough based, always need more based economy that's falling back into the formless, into pure potential, right? And then out of pure potential, out of the formless, we have the new world that we are birthing, that we are midwifing in to reality. So we have the old that we're hospicing in its process of falling away, and the new that we're midwifing in. And so Sarah's question for me is, how do we handle for as these systems are falling apart and dissolving back into the formless? Basically, there's different ways this could go, right? Like one scenario is that the old paradigm falls back into formless, and the new paradigm hasn't emerged yet. So we're in this kind of void. We're in this emptiness where we've outgrown the old, it's not working anymore, but we haven't emerged enough of the new to hold us in a new structure. And so we're in this kind of liminal unknown space. And as Emma was speaking so beautifully too, like if you see it as nature growing up through the cracks of the concrete, it's what we're navigating here and inviting the potential of with something like this phone call, with the Wellbeing Economy gathering, is can we be the space where the new can come into form, so that people who are still in the old world and still in the old paradigm can look over and say, hey, there's another way. There's another way of doing things. There's another potential. There's another possibility. And there's enough structure and enough ground holding us that we can actually transition over and have some structures and support that we can interface with. New monies, right? New monies, maybe even new governance structures, new laws, maybe new countries. We don't know as humanity reinvents its operating system on a planetary scale right now, in a lot of ways, we don't know what the world's going to look like. In many ways that we do. And so coming together in a gathering like this, we make space to support the falling away of the old and to hospice that back into pure potential, and also to midwife the new world into being. And be the luminaries, be the pioneers, be the way showers, be the embodied examples of this emerging economy and this new way of walking through the world, so that we can show up in the world with the transmission in every cell of our being and in our heart and our knowing that there's another way. And people can trust that, right? When we're congruent, when what we say and the energy that we're conveying to people in the moment that we're saying it are harmonized, we're congruent, people trust that. We're not just trying to sell people here on some idea or some gimmick. This is an embodied transmission of a possibility and a potential that's accessible for every single human being on planet Earth right now. Every single one of us can drop deeper down into the ground of well-being, into our heart, into our soul, into our knowing, and relate with our experience from our deeper ground. We all have access to this in every moment. And if we let these deeper grounds, these deeper truths, and what we know inform the way we walk through the world, the way that we exchange and relate with other people, the kinds of business and products and services that we emerge and share with other people as our gifts and our calling in this lifetime, this is the well-being economy. This is the future, and it's here for us right this second.
As I listen to you, Forrest, and look at your picture, it actually takes me to a conversation I was in yesterday with somebody, and I think it's a really interesting example. This is a guy who has been in the banking industry for decades. He's retired, but he's working with me at the moment. He's really excited about the potential in my other business for creating a new model that could be an example for a new economy. And to see somebody who spent his entire working life in what we would say is the old paradigm, really, really mainstream, and to see him, I remember just a few weeks ago, we had a call and he came onto the call and he said, oh, I'm jet lagged. He'd just come back from America to Australia. And at the end of the call, he said, I don't understand. I've got so much energy now. So he started to feel the well-being just from being in the conversation. And his energy, he is stepping into creating a new economy at scale in his retirement because he can feel the energy and he can feel the well-being, and it attracts him so strongly. And so I think we have no idea how many people there are out there who might not be able to do it on their own, but with one of us, it only took me as one person really to give him somewhere that he could put his energy and that he really wants to. Like, how many of those do we need? I don't know, but it actually is a really nice example of how easy it can be rather than how hard that it can be. So yeah. Because we need to be very practical with this as well. The actual practicality of navigating is something that I'm very interested in. How do we navigate through when we're on the edge of the unknown? How do we navigate that? How do we make decisions? This is where consciousness really gets to work. We make choices, and our choices change things. Is there somebody else who has a picture or something in the well-being economy that feels really important for you that you could share? Yeah, Lizzie.
I'll share. I think what's arising for me is, and here to share to the space, is the remembrance that when I feel the well-being economy within myself and within the world, it's a more natural state. And it's not a process of learning, it's a process of unlearning and connecting into a deeper web where we remember everything is connected. And I truly believe when every human is living in their most passionate state of enoughness and fullness, that everything gets to work. And I think we're defining new ways of relating, and like, oh, you have this passion, I have this, somehow they click together and they work together. And when business structures can be from that fullness, from that remembrance, then I think the whole economy will shift. I think how we relate to exchange with one another will shift. And at the core, it will be the remembrance of, let's actually bring you and each of ourselves into our fullest expression, and then see from that awareness how we can all weave and create together. And so I think it's really coming home in a sense, and then getting to play in when we're there. What can we innovate? What can we create? What can we discover? And I think the awareness is where we're making decisions from. And I found it, like, this year I ended up at the World Economic Forum, and I remember having conversations with all these people in climate, and I just saw, like, there was such a sense of, like,
the models are based more in like extraction versus regeneration. And I was like, proposing ideas for the health of the earth, and they were all like, well, that doesn't make money. And I was like,
Yeah,
and I was
exactly.
like, well, I think we're missing the point here. And the remembrance that we all make it up, we make it up together. And so we can create a way that it is regenerative if we all come together. And so what excites me is like even bringing people like that forward and connecting that neural pathway within each of them that starts to see those solutions within their own genius. And I think the answers are already there.
Because they're still human beings and they have children and grandchildren and hearts and bodies like we all do, don't they? I always remember that.
And they have genius within them. They have the solutions within them when they're invited to see it. And it just maybe is a lack of self-awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Nice. Forrest, do you want to say a little bit about the event?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lizzie. That was beautifully said. I'm just reading Sylvie's message here. It would be great to find solutions where yeah, absolutely. Great to find solutions where regeneration and money come together.
Working on it every day, Sylvie. That's yeah.
Yeah, so what I'll say right now about the event is partial. Like there's so much we can say about the event. But just to speak to one aspect of it, in my experience, one of the things that's needed the most in relating with life from the ground of well-being and embodying the well-being economy is like we said, sinking down deeper into the depths of our being and learning to relate with life from a different place than most people are walking around the world in relationship with life from. And so there's a real psychosomatic process, nervous system reattunement happening and a psychosomatic reattunement happening. We all have a homeostasis or a center of gravity or a normal, a point that we relate with reality from. And this gathering invites the opportunity to spend several days deepening into this shared resonance field that we've been speaking about and allowing every cell in our body, every bone in our body, our nervous system, our lungs, our heart, to reattune like a musical instrument, to reattune to this deeper ground that we've been speaking about and speaking from and hanging out in together. And for me, this is one of the most challenging things for folks to figure out how to do alone. We need to be in relationship with other people and be able to get reflections and help understand when is it that I get triggered and go into a kind of frenetic fight or flight or some sense of something's wrong or this moment's not okay. Like just the capacity to see ourselves more clearly, right? And relate more from the sense of right here, right now, in this moment, everything's okay. There's just this fundamental okayness that can come online more and more fully. And being able to do this in relationship, being able to do this in community, and leave the gathering with a new psychosomatic normal, with a new nervous system attunement, where when we really go through the process, we come from a grounded place where now if we leave it, we notice, right? It's like, if you come out of the sense of everything is okay, if you come out of the ground of well-being, you can feel it in a second because the reverberation of everything changes. The vibration of everything changes. All of a sudden, things feel janky or something once it's really taken over your life and taken over your experience. Is what I'm saying making sense? Is this landing? Just like a yes, maybe, no. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so this gathering gives us a chance to really train this. Like we're calling it a training. This is not a 3-day gathering to sit around and listen to Sarah and I share our thoughts. I mean, I'm sure some of that's going to happen. We're doing some of that on this call, but this is really a training. This is for people who are passionate about embodying the well-being economy and making the well-being economy real. So we're going to entrain our bodies, our nervous systems to remember, right? To unlearn all the freneticness, to unlearn all the fear and the scarcity and the not enoughness, and remember this deeper ground, and to reinvigorate it and to wake it up and illuminate it and bring it online, flesh it out, nurture it, so that it can take over our life and we can walk through the world as it again, as in our natural state, our capital N natural state. So there's going to be a lot going on, but that's one component of it, and it's a component that I feel really energized about. So Sarah, maybe you can share about another piece of the pie.
Yeah, I'll say a little bit about the piece that I love, which is actually about conversation, because for me, conversation is not talking about things. When we talk in this kind of environment and with this kind of purpose, one of the source codes of well-being is life sounds itself into being. When we speak, we are literally in creation, sounding into being the future. It's an extraordinarily powerful thing to speak. It's extraordinarily powerful to think or to feel, but when we speak and we share something with each other and it has resonance, when we know that that is actually an act of creation, when we're conscious of that, we have radically different conversations. And I think for me, that's one of the things that I've seen over the last few years, actually, in my community, is people lighting up through conversations that they've never had before, because they've come to realize the power of communicating where it's not about the words. You use the words because the words are like the packaging of the energy, but the energy that is within the words is the creative power. We become much more conscious of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're speaking, and recognize that we're speaking something into being. And for me, then that becomes an activation. And what's beautiful about it is that talking is the most normal activity in the world. When I first went to train with one of the Chinese masters who I spent many years with, what appealed to me actually was because she did everything through talking. And I realized that we could transmit energy, healing energy, for example, while chatting over doing the dishes, for example, or just by having a conversation with anybody anywhere. And so to me, if we can bring together this very ordinary everyday activity with the consciousness that speaking is sounding life into being, literally is an activity that's taking place in creation itself and in well-being, that makes, I don't quite know how to say it. It's like, that's it, that's life happening. And that's the way that we flow with the streams, the energy, so to speak, and we also shift the flow. It's where we as individuals influence the whole through our connectedness with it. So I love to see people going deep in conversation, in clarifying and exploring what is the well-being economy, both in your experience, your inner experience, and then that speaking is the first way that you start to express that. In business, you know, you have an idea, then you tell people about it, then you ask people to do something, you invite somebody to invest or to buy something. Almost all of it starts with us just talking with people. Business is based around relationships. So once we get to the place where we can speak this, then we are already in the middle of a major everyday business activity, very creative business activity. So for me, that's something that I love to experience myself, and I love to share with other people. And I know that it will be a very important part of what we're doing. So we all become transmitters of energy that creates attraction around the well-being economy. Well, a few factual things. It's 3 days. It's from the 4th to the 6th of July, which is the end of next week. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's in the Netherlands. If you want to join us, you will need to make up your mind. Forrest, do you want to talk a little bit about price and signing up and, just those important aspects of it?
Yeah, absolutely. Emma's just put the link to the gathering in the chat. So the tickets are available for the 3 days. And the tickets include not only the 3 days in person, but we're also going to do 8 weeks of integration following the gathering. So sometimes you can go to a retreat or a transformational experience and you can have a peak state experience. You can have some kind of, whether it's a meditative induced state or access a state of consciousness, and then have a moment of experiencing a new way. And the way that we stabilize in a new state, the way we stabilize in a new homeostasis, the new ground is consistent and persistent access to that. So we're not only going to have 3 days of really deep immersion in the gathering, we're also going to have follow-up in the coming weeks so you can touch back into the field and continue to develop relationship with it as you're reconnecting with your daily life. So tickets are available through the site, and we also have scholarships available. So if you're really where we're coming from in this moment in relationship to tickets and ticket pricing is we want people to pay what feels right, and we say what feels right with a capital R. And what that means is we know that this is tremendously valuable, and we also trust that I've seen time and time again this new way of emerging prices where there's a number that just feels right and feels true from the ground of well-being. It's the future of pricing in my experience, where there's a number that comes through and both people get a full body 100% yes in the nervous system. And we can be in relationship about that. You can go with what feels right for you for now. And also after the gathering and in the integration, we can continue to be in relationship about it. And it just something, one of the most beautiful experiences in my life continues to be when paying someone for something or being paid by someone for something, when both of you just feel like this is 100% exactly the number that fits. It just is an exquisite experience. So I don't know the depth to which we're going to go. Like there's so much depth and nuance that we can go into that practice, and there's a door open into it here. So at least some of that consciousness can come into this experience of pay what you really feel is the right thing to pay based on what you know in your knowing, the value you get and the resources you have access to and what feels true for you.
Well, we're very close to the hour here, so feel free, if you've got any questions about anything, feel free to email whoever invited you. I invited some people here. I expect Forrest invited some people, to reach out to whoever you want to reach out to, ask your questions. If you need to join us, if you can and you want to, we would love to have you there. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Just like it's really gathering together around something that we hold very close in our hearts and our souls, and we will activate it without question by being together.
And if you know anyone who's in the Netherlands or in Belgium or anywhere in Europe really, but especially close by, who would want to know this is happening, please share the link with them and let them know you came and how your experience being on this call was. If I was in Europe, I'd want to know this was happening. I mean, I am in Europe, but if I wasn't if I wasn't facilitating, I didn't know this was going on, I'd want to know what's going on. So you might be giving someone a real gift by letting them know this is coming together.
Okay, thank you very much, and see you soon. Goodbye.
Well, lots of love, everybody. See you.